Hi there, welcome to Kneppy Invest. I've done a few videos on Task Group to go TSK, and I thought I'd have a look and do a video on their September quarter results because Task Group was operating cash flow positive by $12 million and free cash flow positive by about $11 million. Now, this company has a market cap of about 150 million. So if you analyze this sort of operating cash flow and free cash flow, this company looks really cheap right now. But, and this is a big but, you can't use for this company the 1 quarter operating cash flow and free cash flow and analyze it. And that's very important. We'll talk about that later in the video. But in saying all that, it was an impressive quarter for this company. So I'll talk about what this company does, have a look at the September quarter results, and also have a look at the chart at the end of the video. I borrowed this particular slide from Task Group's full-year results, most likely their presentation, that were released in May of this year, which means, since I'm recording this video on the 7th of November, the company should release the half-year results in the next few years. Next few weeks, not next few years, next few weeks. So we'll have a better understanding of how this company has performed in the first half of the financial year. But we already know a little bit how this company has performed through their September quarter Appendix 4C. And that is the whole motivation, catalyst for me doing this video today. So what exactly does Task Group do? And probably the simplest way, in as little words as possible, in describing what this company does, is they enhance the relationship between the client and their customers through the whole transaction process. Now, on occasion, rarely, I will go to McDonald's, buy some McDonald's food, that sort of thing. And that process can be quite convoluted. Now, back in the day, we just went to the front counter, ordered the food, and then they made the food, and then we picked it up. But that process seems to be elongated, more convoluted right now, particularly if you order through the app or if you go to those big ordering things near the front desk. And then it just takes a little bit more time, and every single process in this relationship between the customer and the client, in this case, a McDonald's, is handled by Plexure or Task Group. I'll talk about Plexure in a second when we briefly talk about the history of this company. So a few other facts in regards to Task Group. I've just mentioned here enterprise transaction management. I'm not sure if that is an absolute a good way to describe what this company does, but Task Group was actually founded in 2000 by Kim and Jennifer Howden, and that's the Task Group. However, Task Group did not list on the ASX. Task Group was actually acquired by another company called Plexure. Plexure had the ticker code PX1, and they listed on the ASX in November 2020. So even though it is stated that Plexure acquired Task Group, I believe this was more of a reverse takeover, because eventually, after this acquisition went through in late 2021, and this acquisition cost $120 million, and remember that number in a second, they changed the name back to Task Group. That's why I believe Task Group is the dominant partner when it comes to Task Group and Plexure. So listed on the ASX in November 2020, and if you remember that time, that period, there were a lot of IPOs on the ASX, a flurry. In fact, I believe in 2021 was probably one of the biggest years when it comes to IPOs on the ASX, maybe over 200, 220 companies listed at that point in time, because the stock market was in a raging bull at that point in time. Market cap of Task Group, 157 million. That's at a share price of 44 cents. But this company has a lot of cash on hand and no debt. In fact, they have $31 million of cash on hand, which means the enterprise value of this company is $126 million. And remember, I said that Plexure acquired Task Group for $120 million. And right now, the enterprise value is sort of right on that acquisition cost. So possibly, Plexure overpaid for Task Group. And if they didn't overpay for Task Group, Plexure would be valued at $6 million right now. And the ticker code for Task Group is TSK. Now, for some reason, when Plexure listed on the ASX, they actually weren't releasing Appendix 4Cs. And then once this acquisition went through, this merger, whatever you want to call it, went through in late 2021, the ASX must have asked Task Group to start releasing Appendix 4Cs in late 2022. So this company has only released 4 Appendix 4Cs starting in the December quarter of 2022. So I typically like to look at the Appendix 4C 1 year ago, so the September quarter of last year, but we can't do that because Task Group did not release Appendix 4C for the September quarter. And the problem I have with that is you are not comparing apples with apples. You're comparing almost apples with oranges because of seasonality. And that can be important for this company, which I'll touch upon in a second. Now, let's go back to December quarter last year just to see how this company has performed over the past 9 months. Receipts to customers, 14.5 million. The other thing I should mention is this is a New Zealand-based company. So all these numbers are in New Zealand dollars. That's why the company will be releasing their half-year results in November, full-year results in May, because they are a New Zealand-based company. Anyway, receipts to customers in December quarter last year, 14.5 million, and the company was operating cash flow positive by 538,000. If you look at the year to date, 9 months, this company was operating cash flow positive by almost $10 million. And they don't spend a lot of money in financing and investing activities, $487,000 in capital expenditure, and $705,000 in intellectual property, which I believe is capitalized research and development. And at this point in time, they had plenty of cash, $21.6 million of cash on hand at the end of calendar year 2022. So let's have a look at the most recent quarter results from Task Group. And in isolation, these are impressive results. Operating cash flow positive by over $12 million. Receipts to customers up to $31.8 million. Not a lot of spending in financing and investing activities. So capital expenditure, $368,000. Slightly increased intellectual property up to $961,000. So because they're not spending a lot of money in investing and financing activities, a lot of that operating cash flow fell to the bottom line. So the cash on hand actually increased from $20.5 million to $31.1 million. So receipts up $17.4 million from 9 months ago. They've also increased their spending. Product manufacturing operating costs up $3.3 million. Staff costs up $1.9 million. Administration costs up $1.1 million. But receipts significantly grew at a quicker rate than the spending. And that's why the company was or is operating cash flow positive by over $12 million for the quarter. But if you look at the 6 months to date, you'll notice something interesting, that the cash receipts for the first 6 months is only $44.9 million, which means in the last quarter, they only had cash receipts of about $13 million and were actually operating cash flow negative in last quarter by about $6 million. So that's very important moving forward for this company, that there is a bit of seasonality to their receipts and their revenue. Now, I'm not sure it's seasonality or anything like that, but this is a bit of commentary that's really important and probably the reason why the share price didn't absolutely take off. Because if you analyze the operating cash flow, you get something like $50 million, and that's quite ridiculously low for a company with a markup of $150 million and enterprise value of $120 million. But this is the most pertinent commentary or part of commentary within the Appendix 4C. The group generated cash from operating activities of $12 million for the quarter. Now, this September quarter is stronger than the previous quarter's cash flow due to the timing of annual upfront payments in the Plexure division and other movements in the group's working capital. So group's working capital could be trade payables, trade receivables, that sort of thing. So there's a real possibility that the December quarter we're in right now will be significantly worse than the September quarter. And that's one of the reasons why the share price has not taken off in relation to this particular or these particular results, because the market expected these results to not continue in the next few quarters. One thing I like to look at for all companies is receipts and revenue history. Unfortunately for Task Group, we only have 4 quarters of receipts history and a few years of revenue history. But the one thing I want to see is receipts growing through time. Now, we've only had 4 quarters of receipts, and I probably would like to see 5, and definitely I'd like to see 8 or 9 quarters of receipts, because I want to see if there is some seasonality in receipts. And the only way to know if there is seasonality in receipts is to have at least 2 years of data, because we see this massive jump in receipts from the June quarter to the September quarter. And if we saw the same thing last year, we could say, yes, there is some seasonality here. Typically, the September quarter outperforms the other quarters, and the June quarter might underperform the other quarters. So we don't know that yet. We can't confirm that yet, but there is a real possibility that might be true once we get more data. But the most important thing here is receipts are going up through time. We have a small sample size, but it's there nonetheless. Now let's have a look at the daily chart for Task Group. I was going to say Plecture there for a second, but this is Task Group. And this goes back to when the company was called Plecture back in late 2020 when it listed on the ASX. And to be honest with you, from the time this company listed on the ASX all the way through to the middle of 2022, this is a sick looking chart. And when I say sick, I don't mean awesome. What a great looking chart. It's absolutely terrible. This would be nauseating for any shareholders to see this sort of chart because the share price fell from about $1.25 all the way down to a low of almost 12 cents in the middle of 2022. The share price dropped 90% over an 18-month period. And that's a well-defined downtrend. But then the company released something positive in July of 2022. Wasn't their quarterly results because they weren't releasing quarterly. So more than likely, it was some sort of update from the company. The market liked it, and that was the end of the downtrend and the change in the sentiment of the company. In fact, the sentiment has shifted from highly negative to neutral to slightly positive. We did see a potential uptrend developing in the share price from about May through to August of this year. But when the company did release their June quarter results in July, there was a little bit of pressure on the share price because they were operating cash flow negative by $6 million in that quarter. And there was a lack of understanding from the market, from some shareholders, that quarter meant that this company is not financially performing. And then this company released the September quarter results and the complete opposite to what we saw in the June quarter. And that's why we did see, or have seen the share price rally a little bit over the past few weeks. That's all I have for this look at Task Group's September quarter results for financial year 24 now. And don't be fooled by the operating cash flow and free cash flow of this company in the September quarter, because if they can replicate these sort of results in the next few quarters, this company might be the cheapest company on the ASX, might be the cheapest company in history. So the market is saying, and I think the company has already stated in their commentary, that this was an unusual quarter when it comes to cash flow. So don't be fooled by the cash flow this company generated in the September quarter. Should I say that again? Don't be fooled by the cash flow this company generated in the September quarter. And I do expect the December quarter to be worse. What's the next quarter? April quarter, March quarter to be worse as well because of possible seasonality in how this company generates its cash flow. So if you have any questions, any thoughts, just leave those in the comment section of this video. Otherwise, I'm not a financial advisor. If you do need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who's qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.